Welds in aluminium can fatigue and fail over time. That's why our panniers are riveted, like aircraft. Metal Mule. Engineered to be different.
Hi, I'm Louisa Swaden. I'm also known as the Existential Biker, and in August this year I'm going to be trying for a land speed record. Well, it's something came to me in a dream actually. I knew there was something that I wanted to give back. I wanted to do some writing about some of these crazy thoughts and ideas I had in my head about what a good way to live is, because existentialism sort of emphasizes individual freedom of choice, and I'm all about having choices and realizing you have those choices, and then acting on that fact and making your life as full and as complete and as full of adventure as possible. And the only way I could really relay that to people, I thought, was just by coming up with a persona and then starting to write about some of these things that I think everybody could be doing to enrich their lives. So it's kind of just sums up what I was thinking about at the time, just how to live a good full life. Well, about 3.5 years ago, I guess I realized there was something missing. I didn't quite know what that thing was, but I knew I wanted to find out. So I did some deep introspection, some really deep thinking about what it was that was going to make me happy. From that exercise, I worked out what was important to me, and some of the things that came out. I had this big A1 piece of paper splashed on the wall, and things like openness, adventure, travel and excitement all came out. I was thinking, well, what do I need to do about that? I realized I had to actually change my life to incorporate those things. I was working in a corporate environment, but it just wasn't giving me something that I needed. And ultimately, it was making me a bit sick, and it was making me ill that I wasn't fulfilling myself and wasn't really being the person that I needed to be. So I actually went to the doctor one day in a minor illness. I made something up, I think it was tennis elbow, and then as I was leaving I said, do you mind if, can I have something for these anxiety feelings I'm having? And he said, and he did something that I'll never forget, and which I hope all good doctors do, is he put his pen down and he swiveled his chair towards me and he said, now what really is the problem? So I told him, and sort of 40 minutes later, after a 10-minute consultation, I came out with his advice ringing in my ears, and he said, you have to act on these things and these feelings, and if you're not fulfilled, then you need to do something about it. So I took that advice really seriously, and the next day I talked to my work. I got a sabbatical from work, and I planned a series of adventures, one of which included motorcycling across the west coast of America. I also had a little trip to the Panama Canal, and I sailed across the Atlantic. So of all those things, it was the motorcycling that got me, and it was the bug caught me so deeply that I had to come back to the UK, and I had to buy myself a bike, and it had to be an Indian Scout because that was what I had so much fun with. But it was genuinely the people, the feeling of freedom on the bike. Those are the things that I had been missing, and as soon as I found them, it hit me like a bus. I knew that's exactly what I needed to put into my life. Well, of course, people do have responsibilities, right? And it's not easy to walk away from them, and in fact, not even desirable. A lot of the time, those responsibilities are things that are, important to us and make life worth living, family. But I don't think you need to quit your job and go sailing or go around the world. Take that tour to Zimbabwe or wherever you want to go on a bike. I think you can have adventure in your life without all of that. Because some of the things that I've done have been over a weekend. Recently I took part in Pendine Sands, a land speed record event, and that took, well, I only had 10 days notice, and in that 10 days I got myself the UK racing licence, the ACU racing licence. I got myself a bike, I got myself the leathers, the gloves, I got everything. And then I spent the weekend there, and it was the most incredible weekend. I met some great people. There were some teams there. These Demon Design teams were there. and they took me under their wing. So I made new friends, and I achieved something in that weekend I never thought I ever would. That was an adventure, and I only had to go to Wales for that, just for a weekend. So I think there are many things you can do. I've never been on a massively long tour. Most of my tours are 1 week to 3 weeks, but it's the thing that I'm about to do, the racing, is over Speed Week, which is the 10th to the 17th of August, which is a week. Yeah, there's some preparation to do, but essentially it's a week of my life, and it's going to be the biggest week of my entire life, and it's going to be incredible. But as I say, I don't think you have to completely put your life on hold. You just have to seize an opportunity, and you have to say yes to it, and you have to go out there and just put yourself out there, meet people, know what it is though. Essentially, knowing what it is that makes you happy is the most important part of this, because a lot of people are going around with this feeling in their belly that they're not happy and they're not satisfied and they don't know why. This is why the period of introspection was so important, because until you know what it is that you really drives you, you can't do anything about it. So I would say, don't give up the things in life that are really precious and really important, which most people have to earn a living, of course, let's face it, but put those things into your life in a smaller way. I found out that helping other people was really important to me, so I took up blood biking, and that you can do 2 or 3 nights a month. Not much, but you meet a whole new band of people who are dedicated to helping others, and it's a wonderful experience. You get such a buzz out of it just by knowing that you directly help someone save a life. So, adventure comes in many forms and many sizes. Yeah, it's a great question, because ultimately a lot of things in life do take money, but there's an awful lot that don't. I'm working on savings, because I believe that time is the most precious thing in our lives, and that's why I'm happy to spend money for experience and for time to do those things that really mean something to me. So part of the big revelation to me was that a lot of people spend far too much time working for things that they then have to continue working for, and a lot of it is about image, and when you strip things down, you don't really need an awful lot. You obviously need a roof over your head, all the rest of it, but you don't need to spend 25, 30 grand on a car, 15 grand on a car. You can get by with a lot less, and maybe not every house needs 3 cars, So it's just a question of, I think, prioritizing and doing some things that, if it's adventure you seek, you can have adventure, say, without spending much more money. Especially going on a bike, just get a cheap little off-roader and go off-roading for a weekend with some mates. That to me is living an adventure. So I would say that, there's a plenty that can be done within your means. But I think importantly, I found out that I didn't actually want to buy too much anymore that I didn't need, because I wanted to spend that money to get myself time, because that is precious, and we've always got too little of it. Well, by being available, I think. So initially, I'll tell you the way it worked. I heard of something called the Women Riders World Relay, which is something that's going on right now and will go on throughout the rest of this year. It's a baton passing exercise, woman to woman, country to country, and there's over 100 countries are involved. It's absolutely massive movement, and it was all set up by this one young lady called Hayley Bell, with the reason to educate the industry that how many women there are, but also to empower women, because a lot of women, they don't really want to ride in groups, mixed groups. They mostly mixed groups are 90% male, and they might feel just a little intimidated. So this was a way of kind of introducing them to the concept of group travel, at the same time telling the industry, look, you need to cater for us more, because look how many of us there are. And there are tens of thousands of these women now passing batons from country to country. So, you know, in the spirit of trying to help, I contacted the admins and I said, look, I know this has started. This must have been about January and it's just about to start. I say it's late in the day, but I like to fix things. If there's any problem I can help you with, let me know. And they said, well, you know, actually there is. We've got a problem with our Italy crossing. The Italian ambassador is gone off sick. She's not able to do it. And we need some help in that department. So I thought, well, I can't actually speak Italian. I don't really know Italy very well, but you know what? I'll take it myself. I'll take this baton across from France to Slovenia. If I need to, I'll do it by myself. So I said, yeah, sure, count me in. So what I didn't realise was becoming an ambassador meant that you also had to plan the route, try and get sponsorship, try and get all of the events planned and get all the girls together in Italy. And I had 4 weeks to do this. 2 weeks later, I wasn't really any closer. I had actually managed to get the route sorted out, but I wasn't any closer to getting many people on board. I think I had an Australian lady and an English lady. And then all of a sudden, something happened, and that something was a lady called Rosaria. So she was kind of introduced by a chap called Andy Gelski, and he told her to contact Women Riders World Relay. She's Italian, she's well known in Italian biking circles, organising the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride for Rome and Babe's Great Escape, her own tour. And she contacted me, and from then things got really exciting because she knew lots of people, and she was able to get sort of another 6 or 7 Italian girls on board immediately and a few more after that. And we got a couple of trips and stops in sort of BMW and special martini cafes and biker cafes, and it was great because then we were really rolling, and it all transpired that and she told me just at the end, she said, oh well, I've got another project. Well, in fact, my partner Dino Romano is a famous customizer in Italy, and he's built this bike. And it's a 1000cc partially streamlined motorbike, and we're entering it into the Bonneville Salt Flats for a record. And I said, well, that sounds incredibly exciting. He said, yes, I'm a pilot as well. I said, well, how many pilots are you allowed? And they said, oh, well, you're allowed up to 5 pilots. And I said, how many have you got? And she said, 4. So 3 seconds later, I said, can I be the 5th? And she was taken aback that I could make a decision that quickly. And she said, oh, Louisa, maybe. Well, I talked to Dino. So at that point in time, I didn't tell her just how little experience I had of racing bikes, because I actually hadn't had any experience of racing bikes on any surface fast. But I thought I'd gloss over that for the time being. So a couple of weeks passed, and this is after the relay, the successful baton passing event. A couple of weeks later, she contacted me to say, I've talked to the team, the Open Eyes team, Open Eyes Dream Team are all very happy and ready for you to come on board. I said, great, super, that's brilliant. Okay, so basically I put my phone down, and then I thought, okay, I'm going to need to practice. So that's how I got the gig, and it is really through just trying to help other people out, meeting people who are good people, finding opportunities where they present themselves and saying yes to them. Subsequent to that, I spoke to another good friend, a guy called Talon Skeels Piggins, of Talon Racing. So he's a world champion 600cc, he's a Paralympian, and he's a world champion racer and skier. And he said, what have you got? He said, you got this opportunity? He said, you need to practice, and you need to practice on the closest thing to salt there is in the UK. You need to get on the sand at Pendine Beach in Wales. So I hadn't even heard of Pendine Beach in Wales, but I joined this club called Straight Liners, who organise all the racing out there, and they said, you've got to get yourself a race licence before you can come and race. So I thought, okay, I'll do that. And when's the next race? Oh, it's in 10 days' time. Okay, I suppose I better get a bike too. Yeah, you better get a bike. So I went to the best place possible for a bike, eBay, with no experience really of assessing a good bike for racing sand or anything else, I got myself a bike, and I got myself some leathers, I got myself some gloves, I got myself some boots, I got myself to Pendine, all by myself, and I raced on that sand, and I had met the most incredible people. And that was only about 4 weeks ago, and now I'm really getting ready for the big event in August. Okay, so the speed is, for the category of bike, the speed we've got to beat is 239 miles an hour. It's so partially streamlined, so it's quite similar to the bike, I suppose, that Burt Munro raced. Similar category, similar emotional sort of component to it, I think. What we've got to do, the way it works in Bonneville, is that a rookie who comes along needs to kind of qualify through a series of licenses. So for the first run that you have, you will have to pass, basically you have to go on a track and ride the bike up to a certain speed, but no more. If you do that, and that speed could be 70 or 80 miles an hour, if you do that, you go back to the adjudicator and you get stamped and say, you are now, California Timing Association now says that you can ride on the salt flats in competition up to this speed. And you continue to do that, and you gradually get faster and faster until you get to the point where the last four, I think the fourth or the fifth track are the long ones, where you can then, they say, okay, you are now qualified to race over 200 miles an hour, and you up to 270. When the record is within that bracket, then you've got a chance to beat the record. So that's how it works in Bonneville. It's a series. As a first-time racer, you have to qualify by taking the bike to certain speeds, and then you gradually go up and up and up. So you can imagine how tense it's going to be, and just how much fun it's going to be just trying that. The atmosphere is going to be electric, and I'm just so excited to go. So it's a custom built by Dino Romano, so it's a customised in Italy. It's based on a Triumph Daytona 1000 four-cylinder engine, but the rest of it, he's a very clever chap. He's invented his own bespoke sort of new air cooler freezer system intake. That is it's basically his own design, and it's designed to get more power output out of the bike. It was raced last year, but unfortunately there was a battery problem and it wasn't able to take the final and record-breaking run. So this year, pretty sure it's going to make it. So yeah, very excited. Yeah, so I was quite afraid when I first came back from my Epic America tour. Riding in the States on a big bike, you're following the leader and you're pretty much on rails. Everything is very scheduled, all the stops are scheduled to take a massive amount of bikes, and you just keep in formation a certain distance from the person in front or behind you. So it's all very, very simple. You're on rails and the big wide roads. When I came back to the UK, I was sort of hit by a bit of fear. And that was, I suppose, because I hadn't ridden a heavyweight since the American tour. That was my first time on a heavyweight for 25 years, because I passed my test when I was a kid, and I was 24, and I was pregnant at the time, so I wouldn't ride again, and I didn't feel confident on a bike. So America was okay, but then when I came back, thought about the UK roads, thought about having to do that on my own, I wasn't confident. A very good friend of mine then suggested a European tour, and he suggested a company called Magellan. He said, why don't we go on a European tour to Germany, and you'll be fine, you'll be fine. So with those words in my ear, I thought, okay, face your fears, you've got to face your fears and get on with it. So did that. Was still not going very fast though. 50 miles an hour was pretty much my limit anywhere. That was in 2017. It was a trip to the Harz Mountains. But I remember it was a moment that everything changed. It'd been raining terribly badly for several days, and I was dispirited, I was dejected, and I was going very slowly. I was that person that nobody really wanted to ride with because they were right at the back and really slow. However, I was given so much support and I was given some great advice about how to overcome my fear. And from that moment, I decided, okay, well, that's it. I'm not going to let this rule make me anymore. I'm going to take this challenge up. I'm going to ride like it's not raining, because I was told that the tyres are actually much better than I think they are. I'm not going to slip. The stiffer I ride, the more chance there is of sliding anyway. So I thought, right, that's it. I'm going for it. And from that moment, I just improved, and then everything fell into place for me. However, what I didn't realise was that 2 years later, that if you'd told me when I started that tour, 2 years later, I would actually be a tour guide for that same company, I would have laughed in your face, because I really didn't feel that I had it in me. But because of that tour, because of the encouragement by the group, I went on another tour to Morocco quite quickly after that, and I just felt, this is my thing. It just felt, this is my thing. I love the travel, I love the people, I can do this. And then the opportunity came with the Women Riders World Relay. I had led a group of women, so I knew what that was like. I'm not shy of being in the front, I'm not shy of taking the lead. And I thought, you know what, I could do this properly. So that's how that came about, and I'm really grateful to have that opportunity given to me. And it's just how my life has changed in the last 3 years, from really a corporate position, desk job, to going to Bonneville for a land speed record and being a motorcycle tour guide, poles apart. But it's all down to finding out what really drives you, doing something about it, because life is precious and it is limited, and you've just got to seize the day. And that's really what I'm doing now, is giving that message. And I hope that, you know, the medium of motorcycling and the things that I write about will actually reach some people and hopefully inspire them to do the same, because if they could feel what I'm feeling about how good it is to be alive right now, you know, it's marvelous. I just want to share that. And that's really why, you know, even I'm here today, I'm just trying to share that message, because, you know, it's a wonderful life, you know, when you're doing what you love. Well, there's my website, which is www.existentialbiker.com. If you put Existential Biker into Facebook, you'll find me. I'm a little bit on Instagram, a little bit on Twitter, but you know, I basically, you just put that in, you probably find me anywhere. I also, one of the other objectives I had was to start a little bit of writing, and I'm really pleased to say I'm published now in Overland magazine. I've got a regular column, so you can see some of my thoughts and meanderings in there. Motorcycle Sport and Leisure published 1 or 2 things as well, but Overland is the thing that, you know, if you get a copy of Overland, you'll see me in that every quarter. So, yeah, my writing covers all sorts of different disciplines that I'm not an expert in anything. I'm very much a generalist, but I kind of like to tie things together in a universal way. So there's a bit of psychology, there's a bit of astronomy, a bit of physics, and a bit of philosophy. And I think a lot of motorcyclists are actually philosophers. They generally tend to be people with a worldly view and questioners. And lovers of experience. So I kind of combine all of that. So my writings cover one of or all of those disciplines at any one point in time. So, you know, it's not for everyone, but some people seem to enjoy it. So I'll keep going until I've run out of things to say. I was thinking of starting up my own hashtag. So one of the other things that I'm really quite proud of is becoming a grandmother 3 times over in the last 3 years as well. It seems the last 3 years I've just lived a completely new life. It always surprises people, because, you know, you don't really expect a nana to do the things that Guy Martin does. So I thought I might start a hashtag just to say #Nana takes on Guy Martin, and just sort of say that, you know, if I could do it, anyone could do it. You know, you don't have to be special to to realize these things, you just have to be open to experience. So I would say take a little bit of time out. Even if it's just a weekend, to just think about, put yourself first and think about what makes you happy, what makes that little ball of joy arise in you. So with me, it's when I'm motorcycling. There's this ball of fire inside me, and yes, this is my place to be in life. This is what I need to be doing. You will know what makes that ball of joy arise in you. That is your subconscious telling you, this is where I'm meant to be doing, this is what I'm meant to be doing, and this is what I need to incorporate in my life. So I would say find out what it is that brings that out in you, and then even in just a small way, pursue it. If you say I'm happiest when I'm on my motorbike, I want to do more of that, then find a way to incorporate more of it into your life. Say, for me, the blood biking was a great way of helping, getting on the bike, but also giving back. I would say once you realize what it is that makes you really happy, then you have to act on it. That's the critical part, is turning those things into behaviors. So when I did my exercise, I wrote down a list of all the things that made me happy. But the important thing was that I then turned those things into behaviors, because at that point I took responsibility for it. I took responsibility for my happiness. And that's something everybody can do. You know what it is that makes you happy. Sometimes you will have to make hard choices in life, and this is what stopped a lot of people. Unfortunately, those hard choices, sometimes you're going to have to go out of your comfort zone and say, well, I potentially I could quit my job, I could do this, but it means going on a lower salary and starting again, or it means taking a bit of a risk. You have to take some risks in life, and I have taken quite a few, but I do not regret any of them. You regret the things you don't do. I think there's a few famous memes and things going around. People are asked on their deathbed, what message would you give to people? And one of them is, do the things, make your dreams come true if you can. Don't spend your life putting things off, and don't spend your life trying to live the way that you think other people want you to live. You have only one life. Just take it, and if you have to make a hard choice along the way, then you have to make a hard choice. But have the courage to do that, because that sets you free.
Our panniers have a double thick rim at the base, keeping damage from the inevitable bumps, scrapes and offs to the outside of the pannier. Metal mule, engineered to be different.